right here. This interesting little. Let me get this in closer so you can really take it. This is a Tesla coil, and this is a power generator. His idea was not to have power companies and lines running to your house. Every single home was to have one of these in the home that would conduct and pull energy out of what he called the ether, which is basically the energy and air all around us. And it would concentrate and pull that energy in, and then it would be wired into basically like what your breaker box is, and into your main frame, and be able to have power freely. But one of the men that was funding his work was J.P. Morgan of J.P. Morgan Chase, for Chase Banking. So J.P. Morgan was another one of those very, very powerful men back in those days. And when Tesla showed it to him and was so excited about what it was going to do for people, excuse me, Morgan had one question. Well, where do I put the meter? See, he was a businessman. He wasn't just going to give away when he had the market cornered in copper. So, what are most electrical lines made out of? That's right, copper. So he had an interest, and he had that had to be met, and Tesla's invention was getting in the way with that. And that has happened to technologies that you and I have been left in the dark about. We wondered why we still have some of the problems we have these days. Everything from high gas prices to impractical and ineffective healthcare. There's so many technologies that have been hidden from the American people. It's truly criminal. Carburetors that can get 100 plus miles to the gallon, and these companies would go in and buy these people up and take that great invention that should have been released to all of us decades ago. And so these inventions have been hidden from us, and with that, just know that when you start to research and do research about any of these topics, you're going to go down, you're going to find out more information. Your mind's going to open up, and your heart's going to open up, and you'll start to learn the truths that are out there. Because I prayed a long time ago that I wanted to know the truth in all things. And once I prayed, that was when tons of information came flooding my way. So once I learned about this man, he, and the great Einstein said E equals MC squared, means that formula basically means pure energy equals pure matter. That's what it means. It means energy and matter are the same. So, when I learned that, I was blown away. I had no idea that's what that really was talking about, what these theories of his were. So it made me start studying frequencies. Tesla talked about frequencies. And I learned about a man named Royal Raymond Rife, who took frequencies and was actually able to cure cancer in the early 1900s. At the turn of around 1900, he was actively working and building microscopes so he could see pathogens at a very small level. And those pathogens, he had theories that if he was taking frequencies and modulating the frequency and raising the vibration, that he could destroy the pathogen. And he was right. And he was able to do it successfully, repeatedly. But yet here we are today, right? Here we are today, and cancer's a thriving business. And I call it a business because that's exactly what it is. The reason you don't know about the things that can heal you out there is because it's a business. And I know that seems a little harsh to say, but if you do your research, you'll figure it out. So because I started learning about frequency, I started learning about, well, what is frequency? Well, frequency is sound. What is sound? Sound causes vibration. So I came across a great medical doctor named Richard Gerber and read this book called Vibrational Medicine, uh, New Choices for Healing Ourselves. And this is basically a combination of ancient wisdom and new science, and where they're actually coming together, where science is actually able to give us insights into uh, how these older practices actually play out and work in our bodies. So, great book there. Um, Along that same line of vibrational medicine, I started studying energy work, and I was fortunate to go and be trained and certified in the Okada purification therapy, known as OPT. And this is an energy work that focuses on the kidneys, the shoulders, and the head. And by running energy through those areas, you can pretty much balance out the body. Um, so as I became a detox coach, one of the things I really learned how to do uh, is to cleanse the body in multiple ways. So holistically, but also if I want to target and work on certain organs, I can do that. And I learned that through great books like this, The Amazing Liver Gallbladder Flush. If you have never done a liver gallbladder flush and you're over the age of 20, I would highly recommend you get on that as soon as possible. You'll if you're over 40 and you do it, you'll feel like you're 20 again. There's an incentive for you. It's amazing. You'll drop out a lot of extra stuff out of you. When I was going through my training for my CNHP, I had the pleasure of meeting this man, and he became, not just was he my professor, but he also became a mentor. I actually went to school for my CNHP up in Indianapolis, and this man is a fellow Georgian, was a fellow Georgian as well. Dr. Philip Fritchie, naturopath doctor, master herbalist, CNHP. This book it's called Practical Herbalism, and takes you through all things like dill and gravel root and horehound, and there's just so many great peppermint, all these different herbs that you hear that are willow. We all know about willow trees. Did you have any idea that willow was also an herb? It's not just a tree. It actually has a lot of medicinal properties. And there's so many things like that. You think about a long time ago, what was it that the women, most of the women, knew how to heal using herbs? God places everything you need all around you. And Dr. Fritchie, he suffered from Lyme disease, and almost took him out of teaching. He was able to take Lyme's disease and manage it because he found a herb called teasel root. And when he found the maps of where teasel was growing, he had read in another herbalist had turned him onto that in a book, and he pulled out a map of the United States where teasel was known to grow. And then he had some friends with, I believe, with the U.S. Forestry and gaming and game warden, and he got another map about where, because deer population is very well known for deer ticks to carry Lyme. He looked at a map that showed where the highest populations of deer were and tick bites. And when he looked at these maps, they almost laid directly over where the highest concentration of ticks and Lyme disease was reported, and where teasel root rose, the maps were almost identical. So what I learned from this great man was that everything you need is already all around you in nature. You just don't know it because these ancient knowledge, these old ways have gone by the wayside. Because instead of us uh, trusting in our Father and His creations, that we are His creation, and that the other creations like the plants that He's put here can actually help heal us. Not help heal us, they can heal us. And so I don't know what your take is on cannabis, but do research on cannabis. If I don't believe in cancer the way most people do, but if I was ever to find myself in the shoes of like what I've seen a lot of my clients that come through our clinic, our patients come through their clinic, yeah, if I found myself in their shoes, I know what I would be doing. I know the choice I'd be making. Do your research. You'll find there's so many great plants out there like moringa. I could go on and on all day about different herbs and plants that can boost your immunity better than any drug that's out there because that's what it was meant to go into this body. Um, this is another great book that I picked up. It's not an easy read by any means, but Nutrition for Health and Health Care. And so this was really one that shows how nutrition can go along with the healthcare industry and is a necessity for that. It's really sad though. I don't know if you know this or not, but next time you go to your doctor, if you ever ask him about diet, he'll probably look at you with the deer in headlights look. Because if you want to know how many hours a doctor has to have in nutrition to help keep this body, I think we would all agree that we need nutrition. We need nutrients in our body. And they'll say, yes, you need vitamins, minerals, and this and that. They agree with that. Ask them how many hours they spent studying nutrition in med school. Most of them, it's a goose egg. So, I don't know. You know, it's in our world, it's known that cancer is fed by sugar, but yet oncologists will tell you go eat whatever you want. Well, that's the same thing they told to my mother, and then she had another reoccurrence. So she's doing great now. So yes, as I kept reading though, not only was I reading things on personal development and natural healing, but as you can see, I started reading a lot of stuff, and I started reading books on about business because I knew I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. So I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you never read that one, you should pick it up. It's really good. It's not a new book. It's been around a long time, so a lot of people have heard about it. But for you younger people that are watching this, pick up a copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's written on a level where it's a very easy read, and it tells the story of a man who grew up, and he wasn't dirt poor, but they had a very average lifestyle. His best friend, however, his father was an extremely wealthy businessman, so he had the fortune of being able to hang around that rich friend's father a lot and learning things that he would have never been able to learn from his father. Not because his father didn't want him to know, but it just wasn't his field of expertise. I believe his father was he was like a high school teacher or something like that. He just had a regular, normal lifestyle. And this other gentleman had, many corporations and was a multi millionaire, lived in a huge mansion. And so he was able to go back and forth, through this process and learn and hear how his father would say things like, well, money don't grow on trees. And then go to that was his real dad was his poor dad. And his rich dad was his friend's dad, and he'd say, "Well, my dad says well, money doesn't grow on trees," and his rich dad would say, "Well, and that's why your dad's still poor, because of here." All goes back to the mindset. Just know that it's the only difference. So I started reading everything. I really enjoyed the Rich Dad series of books. I ended up getting a lot of them. Own your own corporation. This was great. Just for a beginner, if you want to, if you're thinking about that, you would like to have your own business, and there's so many questions that come up about LLCs and S corporations and C corporations, and which is the best way to go with it, and all these type things. It covers it really well. I'm not saying it's the end all be all, but it covers a lot of basic information that you need if you're having that mindset of an entrepreneurial spirit. And one of the things I also learned from Rich Dad Poor Dad was, this it was called I believe it was called the cash flow quadrant, and it would have ESBI. The E was an employee, S was self-employed, B was for a business owner, and I was for an investor. And so you can be an employee. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what you're happy at. That's what is important. That's where you're happy. You're happy being an employee. You go to your 9 to 5 or whatever your normal hours are, and you come home, you enjoy your life with your kids and your family, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're like some of others where that's not exactly your flavor, well, then you're going to step up from being an employee to being self-employed at some point, and then from there becoming a business owner. And the interesting thing is if you're self-employed, yes, you technically have a business, but if you're self-employed, you always have to show up. Like doctors are wealthy, they can be rich, they can be wealthy. I would say they more along the rich. Most doctors aren't extremely wealthy, and the reason is because they're still trading their time for money. It doesn't matter if they bill it $320 an hour or $400 or whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what their hourly rate is. If they're not the expert sitting there doing it, they're not getting paid. So yes, they technically have a business, but if they wanted to take off, the definition that I learned from these books was, here's how you know if you're a business owner. If you could take a month or 2 months or 3 months off, and whether that was to travel or to deal with an illness with a loved one or whatever the circumstance is, you could take that time off and you could come back, and not only would your company still be there, but it would be better than when you left it. That's a business owner. And now the interesting thing is every single one of us can be investors. You can be an investor as an employee. You can have a 401k. You can do all these different types. You can day trade on the side. Anybody can be an investor. You can flip houses, buy real estate, whatever. So every single the employee, self-employed, business owner can all be investors. But that's the thing. You want to move from the top half of that quadrant down to the bottom half of that quadrant where you have a business that could run and thrive, and without your active participation in it on a day-to-day basis, and then take your profits from that and become an investor and invest those funds. Now, what I learned was that if you're going to invest in something, there's plenty of things to invest in. And I don't know about you, stocks, never believed in it. Don't know that I ever fully will. But there's one thing I do believe in. I believe in land. And as they say, God only made so much of it, right? So there's another book that I picked up in this series called Real Estate Riches. And so if you have an interest in real estate, yes, there's tons of books out there. One of the things I like about this series of books, though, they're very easy reads. They're not complicated. They break it down really simple where you can grasp the concepts. Really, a child could read these books and get the basic concepts of what they're trying to convey. So, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are business minded and you want to be an investor, then I highly and you're wanting to grow a company and you're wanting to grow and build what we call like a legacy. If you want to leave a legacy and you're wanting to do all this stuff in business, well, you might want to take the time and learn about, like, so I picked up, there's a lot of books I picked up that, aren't easy reads. They're not fun reads, but they're invaluable reads. So this was when I was, for a while, I was thinking about becoming a paralegal. Very, very deep interest and love for studying law, constitutional law, tax law specifically, but Law for Business is this is a great book written by Ashcroft and Ashcroft. If you've heard that name before, I'm sure you have. Yeah, you believe he was the Attorney General at one point, so it's a good read. Um, this is another heavy type read, but this is another textbook that's called The Future of Business. I went through this. It really, helped me see where certain trends were going at that time and where I could focus my direction on. If you're going to build wealth, there's a you need to learn about trusts, trust law, and what a trust is and what it's not, and what it can do, where you can pass down wealth from generation to generation. Do you ever wonder how the Rockefellers did it? Do you ever wonder how the Morgans and the Fords and Walmart and the Waltons, how do these people pass on this amazing amount of wealth and not violate certain tax laws that would kick in inheritance taxes and all these things that have literally stolen the wealth of families through these corrupt tax systems? So, trusts are the answer. Look into it, study it. You'll be glad you did. Now, so what are we talking about with some of this stuff? We're talking about, building companies and wealth. So, talking about making money, right? In that process, you might want to understand what money is and what money's not. And most people think, Brian, what are you talking about? Money's money. Well, no, it's not. And so this is an interesting little read. The IRS puts out publications. They are not always the easiest reads, for sure, but some of them, it's not that they get out to the public. They're always there. The public can always get them, but they rely on the fact that you're going to be paying attention to politics, football, sports, news, whatever, anything other than things that could actually affect your life. Well, this is called Modern Money Mechanics. This was put out by the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. It says this complete booklet is available in printed form, free of charge from Public Information Center. So you can get a copy of this. This isn't a secret, okay? And it says right here. Let me get this closer so you can see it. So there's Modern Money Mechanics, Federal Reserve, Bank of Chicago. What does this say right here? What is money? Wow. Wouldn't you be interested to know what the Federal Reserve says money is? What the IRS says money is? And see if what you think it is and what they say it is line up? You'll be shocked. Guarantee it. It's not what you think, people. So there's another great man. This is kind of jumping back into pulling back from the business side of things, going back more toward your mind. I'll always go back to your mind. this is a man by the name of Dr. Wayne Dyer, very, very well known, international best-selling author and speaker. Uh, there's not much you can pick up by this man that isn't truly uh, just great reads, captivating. Um, his beliefs are a little different than I would say most Christians' beliefs, but then again, there's a lot of sick Christians out there. So, um, you know, and there's all sorts of reasons for, for what people go through for sure. But what I learned in books like Dr. Dyer has, this is the book's called The Power of Intention. Intention. Like, what is your intention? Have you ever been told that your intention for your life and everything you do in your life is important? Because that's what he goes on. And he says, learning to co create your world your way. It says right here, intention is generally viewed as a pit bull kind of determination, propelling one to succeed at all costs by never giving up on an inner picture. In this view, an attitude that combines hard work with an I don't even know what is that word. Indefatigable drive toward excellence and the way to succeed. I got stumped. It happens. Hey, even as much as you read, you come across words that like, yeah, I don't know what that one is. However, the intention is viewed very differently in this book. Dr. Dyer has researched intention as a force in the universe that allows the act of creation to take place. This book explores intention, not as something you do, but as an energy you are a part of. You're connected to the Most High, to that energy that sparked and created all life. It says we're all intended to be here through the invisible power of intention. This is the first book to look at intention as a field of energy you can access and begin co-creating your life in. Now, people would say, come on, Brian, that's some of that new age stuff. Well, I'll tell you this. I was at a dark place in my life. You'll hear me talk about this multiple times because it really had a profound impact on me. So many years ago, that same friend of mine that sent me all these information and books when I was at a real low place sent me a name by a man by the name of Les Brown, and I took and listened to his stuff all day, every day. It helped me pull me out of my funk. And so what I learned was I learned to start speaking to myself. Like in Think and Grow Rich, one of the things it tells you is write down good positive things you can say to yourself over and over again. So you put them on like a card and put it in your pocket. So one of the things I did is, sometimes I would put stuff over my bed so that when I first woke up, and it was the last thing I'd see before I go to bed and the first thing I'd see when I woke up in the morning. I didn't have to get out of bed to see it. It's right there. Just something to remind you. Even if you have to do that to remind you to do something new, like just put on a piece of paper on the ceiling above your bed, work out, so that you can get up and go ahead and start working out. So that you don't have to think about it. It's right there. So there's little tricks you can do like that by keeping a card in your pocket. Well, what I did with this is I printed it out, I read this, I heard it, I typed it up, printed it out, laminated it, and I put it on my mirror. So as soon as I go into my bathroom in the morning, this is what I would see when I was getting ready. And it says, create peace in your mind, order in your life, and strengthen your body. Actively commit to at least one new strategy which you have not used in the past 90 days. Think about that. Now, I've covered a lot of stuff here, but if you just read one book and implemented one new thing in your life out of just some of the stuff that I've shared with you here, or anything else that you could find, you make one change, one new strategy, something you haven't done in the past 90 days that can shield you from anxieties and stresses of daily life. Give your time, attention, and focus to this new practice for at least 10 minutes every day for the next 14 days. So one of the practices would be like putting those great positive affirmations and statements on a card and reading them every day to yourself. It's easy to do. It's easy not to do. One makes the difference, though. It says you will transform your life, increase your skills of resiliency and mindful thinking. Then it goes on to say, dis-ease, and notice how it's spelled, not disease like how you hear it, dis-ease, the lack of being at ease. The body is not at ease. That's what that means. Put it back into balance, put it back in ease. Dis-ease exists when your daily choices and practices are in conflict with what your body requires for energy, vitality, and life. Choose life today by rewarding your mind, choosing real food to fuel your body, exercising and moving your muscles. Develop rituals for at least 7 hours of sleeping and nourishing your soul. You deserve it. Les Brown. So I would read this, and I would take this information and things I was studying. I would put new practices into my life on a consistent basis for 10 minutes a day, 14 days. Now, there's some interesting things that will tell you that even a little bit longer than that, 21 days. If you can do, if you really want to create a new habit, then you do the same thing for 21 days. If you do it for a minimum of 21 days, it's like 3 weeks, 21 days. It resets in the mind, and if you'll do that, then you can. And the other thing about habits is, if you want to break a bad habit, don't try to stop the bad habit. It's hard. Trust me. From my experiences in addiction, trying to stop a bad habit is like a billy goat trying to stop a train barreling down the rails. Ain't gonna happen. No matter how hard his head is, he's not gonna stop that train. And so the easier thing to do is to take and replace that bad habit with a good one. So find a good habit and do that for 21 days, and then watch how things start to change. Now,